Hello everyone, my name's Kane and welcome back to more Chaos Head Noah. Last time we got the Yua ending in the form of, I can look at the extra, the Sun and Moon. This time, we are looking at, or we are going to get the next ending, which on our list is, if I can look at it one more time, the Ayase ending. Now this is the first time we can actually start from a different chapter. We don't actually have to start from chapter 1 this time. Instead, we need to start from chapter 2. So let's go to chapter 2. And as always, we're just going to skip through. We've basically got most delusions at this point. Come on, skip. There we go. But yeah, this one might be a bit shorter because we don't have to worry about doing the first chapter. I don't know. Maybe the length of this ending will make up for how short it for the little less time. But yeah, at this point we're just gonna be doing neutral delusions because at this point we've basically got most that we're looking at. So for getting Ayase's route, we don't need to worry about this. No delusions. I hit the wrong button. In order to get Ayase's ending, it'll start whenever it says when we get to the illusion choice, the delusion choice. Why do I keep saying illusion? It is too early in the morning. It's 5:20 in the morning. That's what I meant to say. Not 5. Not, or, yes. I thought I said it was 2 in the morning. I didn't mean to say that. Anyways, the point I was trying to make is that, the delusion in which we get the Ayase ending occurs. It's about to occur here. Now, this one I'm kind of worried about because the delusion that we need to pick here, it should say looked at me, right? Yeah. We need to pick the negative delusion, which scares me, honestly. I have a very bad feeling about this. We already saw what the negative delusion here looks like. So, Fess must be asking me for salvation. Yes. I want to give in to Fess's seduction. No. I'm sure jumping off would feel amazing. Unfortunately, it says we have to pick yes. I don't care if I die as long as it's together with Fess. I have terrible premonitions about this ending. I want to be set free from everything. Oh no. Pound in the steak. Discovered Ayase story. Okay, we're set in stone. Alright. Now we just gotta get to the ending. There's probably gonna be 1 or 2 intermissions though with Ayase, just like the others. By the way, fish sandwich. Sorry, fish sandwich makes me just very funny to me. Anyways, it says that here in the guide that we'll branch into Ayase's story in chapter 7. Now, where could intermissions appear? Obviously, they could appear anywhere, but the obvious spot that I would think an intermission appears would be, or at least I think the part where things are going to start being different is when Ayase jumps off the building. By the way, you almost died. Oh! Here we go. As morning progressed, Kishimoto Ayase stood before the school gate, watching the sky absent-mindedly. Students passed by on either side, and she paid no attention to the strange looks she received from them. Her gaze was full of emptiness. From her perspective, school was utterly pointless. Her reasoning being, she knew the world would end very soon. Even as a third year, she felt out of place wearing a school uniform. This was no time to be attending school. So she believed. Still, she occasionally went in order to continue her search for the gate and the other Black Knights. Suime Academy was the place where the Black Knights would gather, or rather, it was the place where they would be gathered. That was the conclusion she had reached. From a young age, Ayase had been seen as a problem child. She never finished middle school, thus preventing her from enrolling in high school. In spite of this, she transferred into Suime Academy during May of her first year. a day she remembered vividly, even now. She had stood before the gate on that day, just as she was now. Until then, she had been institutionalized at Arkhart Medical. During that time, she endured a hellish trial in order to become a Black Knight. 1 month of psychiatric treatment later, she was finally discharged. The hospital's director, a man whose name she had long since forgotten, spoke to her at the time. Starting tomorrow, you'll be attending high school in Shibuya at Suime Academy. I've done all the work needed to enroll you already. She was not told why. Those words still in her mind, the day she had arrived before the school gate, she murmured something to herself.
The heavens shall be dyed red by the quickening of the wicked-hearted king. 7 dark wicked hearts shall face birth in concord with this hour, for they are soon summoned to the Holy Land. And it will come to pass, O nightmares, O calamities, O darkened cadavers torn asunder, that wicked hearts shall slay one another, and so will be shattered the world under the wicked-hearted king's dominion.
I am very scared about what's about to happen. They were verses of the legend from the Gladial Book of Psalms and Revelation, a prophecy Ayase had taken to heart. Once she uttered only because she knew now for certain. This was the gathering place of the Black Knights. Thus she would continue waiting. Thus she would continue searching. And as time passed, she had never felt a single trace of wickedness. Until now. At last she could sense a presence. The presence of a potential Black Knight. It certainly kept her waiting, but the change was wholly a welcome one. Time is already growing short. Gladio's resurrection is almost upon us. Now, one thing that I'm curious about is how this one's going to turn out, because in the first ending that we ever achieved, the basic ending, I guess we could call it, the first ending, we basically took the Gladial thing that Ayase was talking about and made it into a delusion that we brought to life to attack, Narose. Like, Takumi used that delusion to conjure up a giant snake that grabbed Narose and threw him into the Noah 2, which would help destroy it. So I'm wondering, are we going to see that giant snake again in this ending? Her words a faint, quiet murmur. Another Black Knight. With this thought, Ayase passed through the gates, seeking the boy she had met at the concert venue. And we back to skipping? Yep, there we go. Bye, Misumi-kun. Bye-bye. Don't ask why I keep killing him. I don't know either. It just, there's something very funny to me about Misumi-kun being so irrelevant to the plot that the only thing that I can just do for him is just kill him. I'm sorry, it's just, he seems so irrelevant that it's just like, oh, I'm just gonna do something with you if I can. Die. Anyways. Now we just gotta let the rest of this play out. Again, if I had to guess where the game, this changes will start, it's when she jumps off the school building, right? That's what I would imagine. Or maybe not, I don't know. At the very least, it feels like we're going through this pretty quickly. Although, that being said, I also don't know where I'm at this point. I am not paying attention to any of the chapters. I don't even know what chapter I'm on, to be honest with you. I'm trying to pay attention now to figure out what chapter I'm on. Can I see evil? Let me see that evil expression. Evil, evil. Again, it just made me think of freaking Adachi. Speaking of Adachi, that's actually kind of funny that I mentioned that. There's apparently a bunch of rumors going around right now that a Persona 4 remake is on the, in the works, and people are thinking that it's going to be showed off at some, Xbox, game show thing that's coming up soon. I'd be very happy if it would. I know a lot of people are scared that they'll change a lot of stuff, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just an optimistic person when it comes to games like when it comes to gaming. But I think consider how well the Persona 3 Reload remake turned out. It was really good, I think, personally. If that turned out so well, then I don't see why there's any reason why the Persona 4 remake would turn out bad. Okay, we're in chapter 4. I was trying to pay attention there for a second. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that the Persona 3 remake turned out well, so the only thing of concern that I would argue to watch out for with the Persona 4 remake is that if they're going to remake Persona 4, they need to be remaking Golden, not the original Persona 4, because Golden added a bunch of stuff that was basically that was very important, arguably. They can't do the DLC thing that they did with what I'm trying to say is they can't do the DLC thing they did with Persona 3 Reload, where like the extra ending that was added, or extra ending, I say, no, the extra stuff that was added, episode Ayase. That's what I'm trying to say. The episode Ayase thing that was added as DLC for Persona 3 Reload, that was part of Persona 3 Fez, one of the old releases of Persona 3. They can't do something like that. They can't make the Persona 4 Golden they can't make the Golden part DLC. It needs to be part of the base game. That's the only thing that I think they need that needs to be watched out for, that we need to confirm. That's my opinion on it. It's just, it needs to be made so that the stuff that was added in the Golden version of Persona 4 is in the base game of the remake. I don't know. Maybe I'm wording this very weirdly, but I feel like I'm hoping I'm getting my point across. I don't know. I feel like I'm bad at explaining things at times. Oh, this part might be different. Hang on. This part might be a bit different. But yeah, I don't think it... As long as they do what I'm saying, though, I think the Persona 4 remake will turn out fine. Again, maybe I'm just more optimistic when it comes to gaming stuff. But I think it'll be okay. I know another thing that a lot of people are worried about are voice actor changings, and, well, of course, it would be sad to see different voice actors. At the same time, if they do change... actually, hang on. They might not change voice actors, we don't know. That's not 100% confirmed yet, I mean... So it's always possible that if it's true that there's a remake, then maybe they won't change voice actors. But B, even if they do change voice actors, I don't want to, like, judge the new voice actors for any characters based on the old ones. It's like, I know a lot of people didn't like the Persona 3 Reload voice actors, like, because they weren't the original ones, but I don't think that was the fault of the new voice actors, personally. I think that both sets of voice actors, the ones for the remake and the ones for the original, I think both were good in their own right. And that's what I would hope for in the same way as the Persona 4 remake, if they have different voice actors for the characters. If the Persona 4 remake has different voice actors for all the characters, then I would just hope that it's good voice acting for both games, for both the original and the remake. I don't want to judge based off old. I don't want to judge off the notion of, oh, old better. Old. It doesn't always end up like that. At least that's what I think. I don't know. Maybe I'm just too optimistic. I don't know. Still, the point, I just think it would be cool to see a Persona 4 remake. It would be cool to see a lot of those scenes, and I would absolutely play through it if it came out, a Persona 4 remake. I'd love to see what changes. I would love to see all the scenes and upgraded. And I would love to see how they do the cutscenes for a Persona 4 remake. I would love to see, like, all the scenes that... I think I would just especially love to see all the bosses in Persona 4 remake in, like, an HD version. Like, imagine seeing, like, HD versions of all those shadow bosses. I just think it'd be really cool. Thinking about other games that have other RPGs now, there's another game that I actually want to play through. I'm probably gonna... I don't know when I'll play through it, but I do want to play through it eventually. I've been hearing a lot of good reviews and stuff about the Expedition 33 game that came out recently. Now, I am currently playing through Last Defense Academy, so that is taking up part of my time, and that's probably going to be taking up part of my time for an eternity at this rate, because I do want to play that game until I have as many endings that satisfy me as possible, and for all I know, that could be all endings. Oh, has this part not changed? I am immensely shocked that it's not changed, to be honest with you. I thought of all parts that would be, like, have additional context adds to them, I thought Ayase jumping off would have additional context. But no, I guess not. We're chapter 6 right now? Evil to evil communication. Are we chapter 6 right now? I think we are. Yeah, because we're about to see the dead hand. Or, dead hand? I'm not, this is not Zelda. Anyways, I was saying before, I would love to play through Expedition 33. I just gotta find some time to work it in. Because I'm gonna be doing, since I'm gonna be playing Last Defense Academy for a long time now, I want to make sure that I also do, like, another game. I don't want this channel for, like, the next year or two to just be nothing but Last Defense Academy. I want to do a second playthrough at all times whilst playing through Last Defense Academy. So I'll find some way to make Expedition 33 work into that somehow. Alright, I need to look up at the guide again to see. It was... Wait. I saw sword. Wasn't it yes? It was yes, yes, no, no, yes. Yeah, it says here. Yes, yes, no, no, yes. 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 No. No. Yes. Alright, there we go. Now let's just do neutral. Did I ever do a neutral delusion here? I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, we're getting close at this point. So sometime during this chapter, we're going to be branching into the final, or not final, the next ending. Speaking of Last Defense Academy, I had a whole day yesterday to myself. Or, well, I say a whole day. I did one recording for Last Defense Academy, but then I had to wait to help out with something. So then I just did a bunch of farming to strengthen up the Last Defense Academy playthrough, so it's going to be a lot higher, I'm going to have a lot more options to work with when I get back to playing through that, recording episodes for that now. But that's for that playthrough, that's not here. Sorry, I'm just trying to... Oh, I haven't actually seen this before. I killed the Dokkan bastards in my head in an attempt to relieve my anger, but that wasn't going to reverse the humiliation. And not only that, but the Dokkans from earlier were still harassing me, their obnoxious voices echoing throughout the classroom. Hey, why don't you just die? Living is really, really hard, right? Well, let's lend you a hand. I covered my ears and tried desperately to put up with that. I wanted to kill them. I wanted to tear every last one of them to shreds with my D-sword. I imagined my sword cracking their skulls open, gouging out their hearts, and ripping their bodies in half. Die. 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 Die! I didn't have a D-sword, but I could buy a long kitchen knife anywhere. I wanted to crush these maggots with my own 2 hands. Okay, there we go. Alright, I'll stop talking about other stuff because I think we're about to get into the Ayase route at this point. I am very scared about how the Ayase route's going to turn out. I don't have a pleasant feeling about this, to say the least. I feel like something terrible is going to happen. Something truly terrible. Especially considering the fact that in order to get this Ayase ending, you have to pick a negative delusion in order to get it. Starting with a negative is never a positive. Which is what very much worries me. Do you think everyone's gonna die in this ending? Do you think we'll get to fight the Black Serpent for real this time? The Black Wicked-Hearted Serpent? Gladiole? Was it just called the... Why am I forgetting its name now? Anyways, punch. Picture. Any second. Here we go. Changes. According to the minimum attendance chart, I didn't have to go to school today, but despite that, I came to school anyway for one reason, and one reason only. To see Remy. I had no doubts that the Dokyans in class would make fun of me, just like they always said. It would definitely suck, but if it meant I could see Remy, I could endure it. It was also possible that Shogun could show up again. He seemed to be playing with me like it was some kind of game after all. Maybe he'd feel like sending me on another quest soon. Just the thought alone terrified me. I tried to grasp my D-sword, but even that was just to protect myself from him. Without that sword, how could I ever hope to escape his evil clutches? Maybe if Remy was by my side, like she said she would be, but... She'd been absent from school lately, which worried me. What if she'd been taken hostage, just like Nanami? Was there anyone out there who could help me? I entered the classroom with my head pointed straight to the floor. Before taking my seat, I took a quick look around. I looked toward Remy's seat first. Empty. Was she taking today off too? Was it really that simple? Was she just taking time off? I began to feel anxious. Next, I looked over at Kazupi's desk. Empty? Oh no. She was in her seat, face down and huddled up.
Morning, Takumi-chan.
Morning, Kazupi. I didn't make eye contact, but I greeted her with my inner voice. The female Dokyans were watching me, smirking. It was no different than yesterday. They all already labeled me as the otaku freak who said he was psychic me and asked himself on TV, and that label wasn't going away anytime soon. The male Dokyans didn't seem to have arrived yet. It was pretty common for them to skip first period, and that was fine by me. I took my seat. Suddenly, someone clapped me on the back. What up, Taku? You didn't do this before, did you? It was Misumi-kun, with an uncomfortable look on his face. His slap was a lot weaker than usual. You certainly had no issue ignoring me before, so why start paying attention to me now all of a sudden? I'm sure you'll regret talking to me. You'll become the Dokyan's next target, just like me. Yeah, Misumi-kun, even you. You'd be better off not associating with an otaku freak like me. I remained silent, but Misumi-kun forced a smile. Oh, don't you look like shit. You're already this worn out this early in the morning? Well, I know you're just that kind of guy. As harsh as his words were, I didn't get the feeling that he was joking or acting sarcastic. And after all, it was pretty common for him to say stuff like that. And about before... sorry about that. What are you talking about? I had to hold on to whatever social credit I could, you know? You understand. Forget that, though. From now on, I'll treat you like I always have. What is this? Alright, good talk. He had an indifferent expression on his face. You seriously want to keep talking with me, like, same as always? Do you actually enjoy hanging out with an otaku freak like me? Even though there's nothing to gain from it? Shit, I was actually getting what? No. If Misumi wanted to... No! No, to be honest, I just figured being nice to you will help me stay popular with the ladies. He's kind enough to keep talking to human trash like him. What a dreamboat. Swoon, you know? Misumi-kun, Misumi Daisuke, go die in a hole. And to think I was this close to falling for you, full homo. If you just didn't open your stupid mouth, nobody would have ever realized you were such a narcissist. Worst of all, even as if I even need to say it, is that it was totally in character. He was being completely sincere. And so I finally cracked. My lips curved into a bitter smile. Oh yeah, did you hear about Kishimoto? Apparently she's still in the hospital. Her injuries weren't all that bad, but she's pretty messed up in the head. Listen up, Taku. You wanna know the fastest way to a woman's heart? Act like you care in her moment of weakness. So on that note, I'm seriously thinking about paying Kishimoto a visit. Oh yeah, and while we're at it, Taku, you know Kishimoto, right? You mind coming with me?
Huh? It was a typical subject matter for Misumi-kun, but that was beside the point. He mentioned Ayase. With Rimi gone, maybe she was someone I could turn to. Maybe I could depend on someone like her. This is happening earlier than it should. This is something that happens later, isn't it? This is weird. Is this the same? Okay, thank goodness. But yeah, this... Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! I saw a different title. Our next route is... Chapter 8 Ayase Route. A contract of blood to seal our sin. The 7th case. It happened again. Another new gen. How long was this damn thing gonna go on for? Was I next? Would I be the victim of the 8th case? The 9th? Anxiety aside, Grim was pretty... Yeah. This is the same. Is it the same murderer? Yep, it's the Dokkan puzzle. This is the same. Police Dumb and Dokyun, or maybe our Esper boy. This is the same. Again, if it looks like it's saying the exact same thing, then I'm just going to skip through it. And I've seen those faces. It's them. Guys who beat me up yesterday. Given them my wall, but they kicked ass anyway. Kazubi was with me, covered in blood. Came to, Kazubi carrying it. Could have been me. Definitely not. Ayase? Up. Kishimoto Ayase was lying in a hospital bed, idly gazing out the window. No bars lined the outside of it, a fact which set it apart from those at Arkheart Medical, where Ayase had stayed in the past. All that stood past the window's frame was the landscape of Shinjuku, decorated by skyscrapers and illuminated by the sunset. Flocks of pigeons soared freely through the sky, flapping their wings to their heart's content. Every now and then, she would gaze upon this sight with a pained expression. Her slightly tired eyes were empty and bleak. Her irises reflected nothing. Her lips, which could let flow a voice so beautiful, it shook the youth of Shibuya, were now sealed tight. Not even so much as a hum escaped from them. Following her suicide attempt, an event which had caused quite the turmoil, she had been admitted to the psychiatric ward of a large hospital in Yoyogi. Her injuries were already very nearly healed. According to the doctors, it had been nothing short of a miracle that she had been able to survive a fall from that height, let alone with barely even a scratch. However, she had indeed hit her head fairly hard, and as such, she had been rushed to the hospital, primarily so they could see how the situation would develop. It has already been over a week since then. However, despite having been admitted for such a reason, all it seemed to entail was a few rudimentary tests taken every couple days or so. Beyond that, she had been rather neglected. Her hospital room was private, with no other beds beside it. Ever since her stay had begun, her D-sword had been leaning against the window. It constantly emitted a blue light, yet nobody who visited it ever seemed to notice. Not that there were many visitors to begin with. Many Phantasm fans would attempt to force their way into her room daily, but as they always caused a disturbance in the process, the hospital had an excuse to forbid them from visiting her. And since Ayase was somewhat detached from her family, there were almost no others who came to visit her. Her fellow band members had made an appearance once, but Ayase used that opportunity to announce her decision for the band to break up. They had not contacted her again since. Suwa? No, Hazu... Kishimoto-san, did your thermometer beep?
A nurse wearing white scrubs opened the door of the room, then swiftly entered. Ayase slowly turned to look at the nurse's face, then took out the thermometer that she had been resting under her arm. It was as if she had only just remembered its presence. The nurse took a look at the recorded temperature shown on its digital screen, then took note of it on the clipboard she had brought with her.
37.1 degrees Celsius. You have a very slight fever. My head hurts.
Ayase grimaced in pain once again.
Oh dear, is your headache back? I'm afraid that's just a side effect of the medicine we gave you. It'll be gone before long, so try your best to ignore it.
Having recorded her temperature, the nurse consoled Ayase with a kind smile. Her expression was so gentle, it was clear to all how she was able to put her patients at ease.
And yet, despite the nurse's attempts, Ayase simply pushed her hand against her forehead as she shook it back and forth. Ayase had been plagued by mild headaches ever since she had first been hospitalized. They were not especially painful, but they still left her with an uncomfortable feeling that refused to go away, one that felt as if her brain itself was convulsing. It even reached a point where her ability to think was impaired. As well as this, her body would feel as heavy as lead. Ayase had experienced such symptoms in the past, namely when she had been institutionalized at Heart Medical. Back then, her head had constantly been split apart by painful headaches 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It deprived her of all sleep and emotional stability. Those were the memories she did not want to resurface, the past she had sealed away, the events of around 2 years ago. And yet her headache was causing them to flash back into her mind once more. Yep, the dripping water. In them, a dark room, its single window locked behind bars. Apart from the walls in which that window stood, the rest of the walls were covered with mirrors. Ayase had been placed in the center of the room, sat in a crude steel chair. She was wearing headgear with countless cables protruding from it. Her hands were tied to the back of the chair. Her head was locked in place, with her chin slightly tilted upward. Not another soul was present in the room. Thus, all that could be heard were the sounds of Ayase's labored breathing and the metal groans of the chair she sat upon. Saliva trickled down from the corners of her mouth, accompanied by moans akin to those of a beast. If anyone were to hear them, they would never be able to guess that they would be coming from a girl as young as her.
Help me. Help me.
She was being tortured. Slow, methodical torture. One that made very, very little sound. The method only involved one single thing, not even an action. A drop of water falling from above onto her forehead every 5 seconds on the exact same spot. That was all it took. And it would continue unrelentingly for 2 full days. The result? Ayase could think only of the drop that would fall next. Her senses were sharpened to their limits. And each time a drop fell into her forehead, another hallucination would be born. One in which each and every nerve across her body was plucked out one by one. One in which the bones of her entire skeleton crumbled to dust. One in which her head was pierced by a long, sharp awl. One in which all liquids within her body, including her blood, froze to ice. One in which the skin lining her entire body slowly rotted away before eventually peeling off. Assailed without end by these sensations, Ayase could no longer maintain her sanity. Returning to her senses, she breathed erratically as she tightly gripped the sheets lining the bed. Her body trembled as those dark memories of hers resurfaced in her mind. The nurse that had been in her room just a moment ago was already gone. Dinner time had just arrived at the hospital, and the clamorous sounds that came from it resounded from down the hall. I also tried to recall the words the nurse had spoken to her right before leaving. Was her headache really just a side effect of the drug she was on? Or had it been caused by her hitting her head, perhaps? Or perhaps it was just a hallucination brought forth by her past memories. She was unable to come to a decisive conclusion. Wiping away the sweat that ran down her forehead, Ayase called forth a smile laced with self-loathing.
It matters not. It is in the past. For I endured and survived my divine punishment. I will not let it control me anymore.
Murmuring in perhaps delirium, Ayase soon became aware of a sound reverberating throughout the hall. The comforting sound of shoes stepping on the linoleum floor. It was certainly not being made by a nurse, and the sound of footsteps was heading right for the room she was in. Someone knocked on her door, and she sealed her lips tight. Suwa? Excuse me. That someone was but a single man. He'd come bringing gifts, namely a large basket filled with all manner of fruits. She could recognize the man, which was far from a good sign. Thus she stared at him with a dubious glare. Hi there. Oh, no, you be on edge. You know,
I know who you are.
The man was a detective at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. He had once shadowed Ayase, as she was originally a suspect for the new Gen case. The detective, relieved by her response, scratched his head. His demeanor was unendingly casual. Oh wow, that's an ego boost. I'm so glad that such a pretty lady like you remembers little old me. You have a really good memory, huh? I'm impressed.
The detective moved closer to the bed. Ayase briefly glanced at her D-sword leaning against the window. It lay just outside of her reach. Hello. I just dropped by to check up on you.
I do not believe you. What is your objective?
Yikes, talk about straight to the point. The detective flinched very overtly, his reaction perhaps bordering on theatrical. Well, I just had a little something to ask you, Ayase-chan. Alright, I brought this. If you're up to it, you should really eat. The detective smiled innocently, presented the basket he had brought with him, then placed it at Ayase's feet without waiting for approval. They're super tasty. And expensive, too.
I do not want it.
Oh, come on. Let a guy show you some hospitality. I bought them just for you, you know. Well, I don't mind if you leave them for when your mom visits. She can cut up a few slices for you then. Oh, shoot. It's been years since you last saw your parents, hasn't it, Ayase-chan? Despite the detective's insensitive remark, Ayase felt nothing in response to it. Her ties to her parents had been cut from a very young age. Her parents had a reputation to uphold, so a child that often caused problems like Ayase had been an inconvenience to them, to say the least. Her only remaining contact with them was the wire transfer she received for her living expenses each month, though it could hardly be called that. I'm really sorry. The detective apologized, bowing down hastily. Ayase had only just gotten over the shock caused by her flashback, so she was in no mood to speak with them. Nonetheless, she urged herself to talk all the same.
What is it you wanted to ask? Do you wish for an alibi?
Not at all. We've already talked enough about that. No, I'm happy to announce that you're no longer considered an aspect, Ayase-chan. You're totally in the clear, I promise.
Have you learned of their motive? The culprits.
Sorry, but I can't tell you that. It's a confidential part of the investigation.
Is it Takumi?
Can't confirm or deny. The detective smirked. He was attempting to laugh the question away. And yet something unrefined could be seen through the cracks of that smile. That said, Nishijo-kun sure is a weird kid, isn't he? You wouldn't really suspect him of being the killer based on how he looks. If he really is the culprit, then he's way too good at hiding his true nature. The guy would have to be a demon to be that good. That's a pot calling the kettle black.
Is he still a suspect?
Nah, not really. The detective casually denied it with a smile, putting Ayase's persistent questions to rest. Oh, you didn't hear that from me, though. My supervisor will get real mad if they find out I leaked any info. Not that I would blame them. Besides, I only just got off the hot seat with my superior. I think you met him once before. You remember him, Ayase-chan? Ban-san, the detective with the scruffy black hair and the stubble? Ayase did remember him. When she had been questioned, the older detective had been even more talkative than the younger one she was conversing with now. His way of speaking had been a lot more assertive as well. He's always pretty quick to yell at me. I swear, I can't go one shift without him calling me a schmuck. No, I don't know why I'm the schmuck when he's the one going off on these wild goose chases instead of just investigating what we were assigned to do. And it's a sweet cherry on top. He's been forcing me to go along with him for all of it. Feels like I'm gonna lose my mind if this keeps up. Well, I'm sure he's a good guy at heart, and his intuition is razor sharp. From what I heard, he's had to lead some pretty difficult cases in the past, so that's probably why he's turned so hard-boiled.
Is this what you wish to talk about? Why you came here?
Ayase interrupted the man, and his smile quickly soured. Oh, sorry. I got a little sidetracked. Okay, stop yawning, sorry. Please, keep everything I just told you a secret. Do this, and I, Sua Mamoru, will be indebted to you for the rest of my life.
So?
For starters. Why'd you do it? Despite his ambiguous phrasing, Ayase could tell that he was referring to her diving off the school rooftop.
I already explained that, why, several times, to the other detective.
To avert the resurrection of the wicked art King Gladiol, right?
I did not do it with the intention to die. I did it merely to ascend my spirit to a higher stage.
You said something similar about your songs too, yeah? The ones that are pretty popular with kids your age? And that was the second question he had for her. Ayase let out a faint sigh.
Those lyrics were not about Nugent in the slightest. I merely wrote them based on the Gladial Book of Psalms and Revelation, chapter 3, verse 102. The arrival of the wicked heart king, Gladial, is nigh. This world shall soon know his presence. Only with 7 stakes forged in blackened blood, shed by Gladial himself, may his resurrection be averted. The stakes shall be reforged into swords, and the swords shall be bestowed upon the 7 black knights who withstood divine punishment itself. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. For only mortals burdened with wicked hearts may overthrow the wicked heart of king.
Wow, that sounds like some straight out of a movie. I love me a crazy epic storyline like that. I also glared at the detective in response to his comment.
It is not some sort of storyline. It is reality.
Well then, I got one more question for you. The detective casually brushed away Ayase's objection, though she was all too used to this form of dismissal by now. Not a single person she had told the story to thus far had believed it. You know, we've investigated a whole lot of our students Asume other than you and Nishijo-kun, and, well... The detective mumbled to himself as he folded his arms. This was very obviously another act of theatrics, and Ayase had no intention of commenting on it.
What is it?
Well, this is gonna sound a little crazy. And it's not something a detective should really be asking, but... And it's actually kind of childish, if I'm being honest.
I see. If you don't intend to ask me something, then take your leave. My head hurts.
Oh, okay, wait. What I was trying to say is, Benson said something really weird once. That you guys must be wizards or something. Upon hearing that the subject of that remark was plural, Ayase raised her eyebrows in suspicion. That's obviously not true, right?
We are.
As she replied, Ayase's line of sight was directed not toward the man, but toward her hand that lay atop her bedsheets. You're a very interesting guy, Ayase-chan.
But New Gen is wholly unrelated to the Knights of Gladial.
Huh. Gotcha. The detective, completely disinterested in what Ayase had just said, brushed off her words once again and then began to stretch. The moment he did so, yada yada yada. It was like a certain girl's calling me. This is my lovely girlfriend. So this is Hazuki at this point. Forcing the car to hang up, he then turned to Ayase once more. You movie buff Ayase-chan? Never heard of Spark Wars? My ringtone's the Count Darth Spider theme from the movie, aka the thing you just heard. Ayase had no interest in movies, nor anything of the sort. Having long since decided that she had no obligation to further entertain the detective's questioning, she returned to gazing silently outside the window. To be honest, I'm kind of a Spark Wars superfan. Oh, but judging from that, you're probably not interested. Sorry. Well, guess I'll get out of your hair now. See ya. With that, the detective concluded the conversation with which he had no partner, then left the hospital room. Ayase did not even turn around to watch him go. With the man gone, all that reflected in her eyes was the twilight sky slowly turning indigo. I noticed that the text skipped a little bit there. I guess we'd already seen some of it. Hello! I'd shown up at school on Thursday for one reason and one reason only. To meet up with Misumi-kun so that we could go see Ayase in the hospital. Granted, he had more or less forced me to tag along, but I still figured that Ayase could help me out. Yeah, this is very different. We would usually have Rimi here. With Rimi seemingly out of the picture, I needed someone else to protect me, and Ayase was one of the candidates I had in mind. So maybe, just maybe, if she had already recovered somewhat, she might have been able to do something to that effect. And on top of that, with her help, my chances of obtaining a real D-sword would skyrocket. I really couldn't do it on my own. Then again, it was Ayase herself who'd said obtaining a D-sword isn't something one can teach. But still, this was Ayase we were talking about. Surely she could help somehow. Coming in through the front entrance, Misumi-kun looked around the lobby in confusion. What's wrong? I called out to him. Well, I was just trying to figure out where Kishimoto's room was. Have you seriously come this far without knowing that? This guy was beyond belief sometimes. This is the outpatient ward. The hospital ward is next door. Shit, is that right? Tokyo General Hospital. It was a hospital that I had gone to ever since I was a kid. I'd even come here just the other day, so I was pretty knowledgeable on where everything was. Dr. Takashina's face flashed across my mind, and I involuntarily groaned to myself. As we walked to the hospital ward, Misumi-kun turned to me. So, which of these rooms is hers? How should I know? This was a general hospital, so there were obviously a ton of different wards and departments. If I had to guess, probably not the surgery ward. But she could maybe be in the psychiatry ward. There hadn't been any visible injuries on Ayase after she'd fallen. And considering she attempted suicide, her mind had likely been brought to the brink, so her being in the psychiatric ward seemed very possible. Even I'd been taken to the psych ward after the uproar at O-Front. Yeah, you sure know your stuff, Taku. Thinking that wandering around the ward would cause problems for the patients, we decided to ask for help at the nurses' station, and just like I predicted, they told us that she was on the floor for psychiatric patients. Hey, remember what I told you? You know, the best way to a woman's heart. Misumi-kun grinned from ear to ear as the two of us walked down the hall. Was that seriously your only reason for visiting her in the hospital? At least have the common sense to not talk about it out loud. Regardless, I think he said the fastest way was act like you care in her moment of weakness or something like that. Today, I'll show you that. I'll show that Ice Queen a real man. Misumi-kun shone a pearly white smile and gave me a thumbs up. Didn't matter how confidently he said them. The words coming out of his mouth were totally disgusting. But I guess he could get away with it because of his good looks. Must be nice being an alpha male. Oh yeah, you and Kishimoto are pretty close, right? Not really. Come on, you can't fool me. No, whatever, just follow my lead. Put in some good words for me as we go, something like that. Oh yeah, Misumi Daisuke is such a great guy, I trust him with my life. Lay it on real thick. I can't. Oh, come on, don't say that. I'm on my hands and knees here, Taku. Have a little restraint, will you? You're at a hospital, not a mixer. With him acting like this, was it even a good idea to have him see Ayase at all? It wasn't like she really cared much about him anyway. The pin in my stomach was getting deeper and deeper by the second. Oh shit, this one it? Misumi-kun stopped in front of a door and pointed at the nameplate. It definitely did say Kishimoto Ayase. The door was closed though, so we couldn't actually see who was inside. Well, you gonna talk me up once we're in? Yeah. For the time being, I nodded in agreement. Although, even if I did get the chance to say something to Ayase, I doubt I'd be able to say much, regardless of whether Misumi-kun was there or not. Sup, Kishimoto-san? Misumi-kun opened the door, greeting Ayase with a cheerful tone. We came to The tone didn't last very long. His face immediately froze. Wondering what made him stop, I decided to peek over his shoulder. What happened? What's going on? The room was around 10 square meters in size. Past the entrance, there was a bathroom to the right and a bed in the back. And on the bed... Oh shit. Did you kill Rimi and Nanami? I think you killed Rimi and Nanami. Because those are Rimi and Nanami's D-swords. Said Ayase, stained with blood from head to toe. Hollow eyes pierced straight through us. Misumi let out a pathetic scream, then shoved me aside and flew out of the room. I wanted to run as well, but my legs were frozen in place. I quivered in fear, and yet at the same time I was struck by the bewitching beauty of the blood-drenched girl, as well as the things leaning against the wall behind her. I couldn't move an inch from where I stood. The objects resting there, as if it were the most normal thing in the world, were D-swords. Yeah, it's Ayase's, Rimi's, and Nanami's. 3 of them to be precise, including the one I'd seen her wielding before. Each one had a different shape. One had a form so strangely sophisticated it could barely pass for a sword. Another was shaped like a cross, its form evoking a sense of heartrending pity. And last one, which Ayase had used before, appeared mystical yet aerodynamic. Why did Ayase have 3 D-swords? Wait, why did I assume that a person could only have one? Maybe Seina and Kazubi had multiple swords too. No?
Takumi.
She called my name and I gulped. She began to approach me, her body surrounded by an air of elegance. I was frozen in place. Hey, we can talk this through. You probably just killed Rimi and Nanami, so...
You came after all.
Do not kill me, I swear to God. Why is there so much blood? Her pajamas were dyed crimson by an abundance of blood. Blood that hadn't even dried yet. The rusty smell of fresh blood seeped into my nose.
This is the blood of the Black Knights.
Black Knights? Is it yours?
It is not.
Then whose? And were you the one who killed them? Ayase smiled a wide smile and then she giggled.
You must be frightened, Takumi.
She stroked my cheek with her blood-soaked fingers.
But what frightens you the most lies within your own heart. You must cleanse yourself, your wicked heart of impurity, and safeguard only the purity that remains within. If you can achieve this, you shall obtain your D-sword. You must obtain it at all costs. You are a Black Knight. You possess the strength to do so.
If I get a D-sword, are you gonna kill me too? I mean, you're here to kill Black Knights, right?
Do not be fooled. As the impure wickedness swaying you.
Ayase peered at my face, her hand still on my cheek. Her eyes looked hollow, and yet I could sense a profound radiance buried deep within them. I couldn't take my eyes off her.
Black Knights hold authority over wicked hearts. However, the wicked-hearted king was cunning. The Gladio Saga, Volume 6, verse 250. Gladio will gradually erode the domain of wicked hearts, reach complete dominance under a veil of silence, for at last driving them to rampage. We cannot afford to lose this battle. We must oppose the wicked heart king's invasion of the hearts of men.
I never made eye contact with D-girl this long before. I was completely captivated by the traces of sorrow, desolation, and vigor in her eyes. I hadn't listened to a single word she had said. Protect me. When I snapped out of the trance, I found myself muttering that. Protect me, please.
Very well.
Ayase nodded without a second thought. And then she brought her face closer to mine. The stench of blood grew stronger, becoming more and more overwhelming.
This is how it was foretold.
She whispered softly in my ear. My heart was racing.
I will protect you. So please, protect me as well.
With her body smeared in blood, she was so corrupt, so impure, and yet so bewitching at the same time. It was hard to believe that a girl like her was a student at my school, and in the same year as me, no less.
There are no longer any other Black Knights who can fill this role. At first I attempted to gather the Black Knights as prophesied, but with my strength alone it proved impossible. But if you are here, Takumi...
Just like she had at the concert, Ayase showed me a face that was unbearably seductive. A face she rarely ever showed.
Eventually, the gate of Cadens will open, and when it does, the wicked heart king shall descend upon this world. That is why we must hurry and collect them. All 7 D-swords. You and I, together.
There were 3 other D-swords leaning against the wall. In other words, there were 3 D-swords leaning against the wall. In other words, there were 4 left.
One of them is a D-sword you must obtain yourself.
I already tried. I couldn't do it. Back at O-Front, I'd come so close, but in the end, I'd thrown it all away. I'd given up completely on getting a D-sword.
Do not succumb to despair. Many more opportunities shall arise. It is already visible to you after all. That alone is evidence that you are a Black Knight.
So eventually, I'll be able to do it?
If you can conquer the impurity of your wicked heart, then it is certain.
What was wicked heart supposed to mean? Was she saying my heart was wicked and impure because of my preferred delusions or something? Oh god, it would not be easy to conquer that. Probably even impossible. What the fuck? Ayase let go of me and returned to her bed. And right when she did, she suddenly... Okie dokie, I'm going to mute this just in case.
I'll be changing clothes now.
Wait! Flustered, I instantly looked away. I figured I should probably leave the room, but right as I went to...
Stay.
After hearing that, I couldn't move an inch. The only thing I heard after that was the sound of Ayase taking her clothes off, echoing throughout the quiet room. The hospital room wasn't very big. It was slightly larger than my base, but still pretty small. And so there I was, alone in a tiny room with Ayase, and she was right behind me, changing clothes. I could tell it was happening right behind my back. Shit, I was so nervous, but why? It made no sense. It wasn't like I was used to this kind of stuff. There was a scene just like as in that one Eroge slime girl appears with CGs by Higashi Matasema.
Why do you look away, Takumi?
Because I don't want to get banned. Because I shouldn't look. My voice almost cracked as I spoke.
Are you abashed?
Are you not? Is she trying to tell me it was okay to look? I mean, I wasn't into 3 girls, not even remotely. That being said, if she was giving me permission to look, I wasn't going to say no. Takumi.
You should be made aware that you are being fooled. Those feelings of yours, they are proof of his erosion of your wicked heart.
Fooled? By who?
The wicked-hearted king, Gladio.
I casually picked up the book on the bedside table in front of me. On the cover was the Gladiol Saga, Volume 17, the Book of Psalms and Revelation. Who's... Gladiol?
A wicked existence. The manifestation of negative delusions. The collective unconsciousness of the darkness that dwells within the hearts of all. A deity that will bring about the end of the world. He goes by many names.
Does that guy use a wheelchair? Like, is he disabled?
Gladio does not always take human form. I have finished. You may look.
Okay, we're safe. I was scared. I slowly turned around to face Ayase. She was already done changing clothes, and for some reason she was now wearing her school uniform. Why her school uniform?
Because he is drawing near. Gladio's awakening is upon us.
That doesn't answer my question.
We need to be ready to move at all times.
Then wouldn't normal clothes be better? Well, whatever. What's done is done. Does this Gladio guy have anything to do with Gigglomaniacs?
Gigolo... What?
Ayase raised her eyebrows in confusion. It seemed like she didn't know. Maybe Gigglomaniac was just a term that Sena used for them. Gigglomaniacs. That's what Sena called people with the D-sword and powers. She said that the D-sword is like a channel or something connected to the direct sea.
I suppose everyone has their own names for things. A D-sword is the materialization of one's own wicked heart. That is what is written in Gladiol Saga, Volume 3, verse 1123. It is a tome of prophecies.
As she said that, her gaze was fixated on the book in my hands.
Everyone seems to believe that my lyrics contain foreknowledge. But in truth, I simply take inspiration from the Gladiol Book of Psalms and Revelation. Which must mean that those psalms are some sort of written prophecy. How did nobody else notice this?
A written prophecy? Are you kidding me?
I am completely serious. Everything happening in Shibuya right now, and everything that will happen, has been foretold in the form of a story by Ziegler.
Ziegler?
The author of the Gladiol Saga. He has since passed away, but I believe Ziegler was a great Black Knight when he was alive.
I was really starting to think that Black Knights was just her term for Gigglomaniacs. Yeah, it pretty much is. And if the author of this book was a Gigglomaniac, then no wonder he could predict the future. I skimmed through the book I was holding, the Gladial Saga, Volume 17, the Book of Psalms and Revelation, and what I saw shocked me. It was blank. What? It's all blank! What do you mean? Huh? No matter how many pages I turned, no matter where I looked inside the book, there wasn't a single word. What the hell? I turned back to check the front cover. It wasn't a normal book cover. It was almost entirely blank. All that was written was the title and the author, not even the names of the publisher. Once again, I tried flipping through the book from the beginning. But even the first page was blank, and no matter how many pages I went through, I couldn't find a single one with any writing. Is this a misprint?
What do you mean?
I mean, isn't this just completely blank?
What are you saying? Everything is written there. I've read through it countless times.
You've read through nothing, madam. What are you talking about? Look. I shoved the open book right in Ayase's face. I don't care what you say. That's totally blank.
It's not blank at all, though.
Yes, it is.
There are words written right there. Can you not see them, Takumi?
Was she screwing with me? Or was she actually being serious? Maybe Ayase had been a complete mental case all along and I'd only realized it just now.
So you cannot see them. Then you are being eroded by the wicked-hearted king.
Ayase was dead serious. She really didn't seem to be joking. In fact, I was pretty sure I'd never seen her crack a joke even once before. But I took another look at the book, but I really didn't see a thing. It really just looks blank to me.
I see.
Ayase's shoulders drooped in disappointment, and she then took the book away from my hands. Her hands were cold to the touch.
Have you ever thought about it?
Huh? Thought about what?
That the shape of the world is formed by the eye of the beholder, and nobody can measure the difference in perception. Concepts or cognition can never match between two people. But I can at least say this much. The difference between what you see and what I see can be attributed purely to the influence of our wicked hearts. And the wicked-hearted King Gladiol is the collective of all wicked hearts. He is about to awaken. Soon. And if he does, it is entirely certain that all 6.7 billion worlds in this land shall be amalgamated through the chaos born through the wicked-hearted king, and then they shall melt together into one. Boundaries will disappear. All shall be consolidated by the wicked hearts into a single world. Everything will be reborn in chaos, lacking any pattern, only to perish in an instant. Concepts, cognition, causality, all of them will shatter. A world including everything, and therefore containing nothing. Like any other legend, this calamity too has been prophesied by the Revelation, the Psalms of the Apocalypse.
Was that really true? Was that what's written in the blank book? In the Gladial Book of Psalms and Revelation?
If we do not act, the apocalypse will be unavoidable, and the world shall see its ending. But if we act now, you and I can stop it. We are the only ones who can.
Why just us?
Guidance. The wicked-hearted king has already eroded the rest of the Black Knights.
Wait, Ayase had said earlier that the blood on her was from the other Black Knights. Had she killed them somewhere in the hospital? If she had, then where were all the bodies? Then, right as I thought about that, Ayase walked past me and placed her hand on the door. Where are you going?
To pee.
Don't open that door. It's gonna show the bodies. With a deadpan expression, she answered me, then headed off without waiting for my reply.
Huh?
I looked around the room, trying to find more volumes of the Gladial Saga, but no dice. I didn't know how many volumes there were in total, but the one I picked up before was the 17th. Volumes 1 through 16 were nowhere to be found. Of course, it was possible that she just hadn't brought them to the hospital. I still couldn't believe that the book was totally blank, despite seeing it with my own 2 eyes. And so I left the room before Ayase came back. There's no one here. And so the hospital had this corner set up on the far end of the lobby. Countless PCs were lined up there, and they all had internet access, something I'd learned from the countless times I'd been here. Now that visiting hours had ended, all signs of life in the lobby had vanished. Even though it was so busy during the day, the lobby was now covered by an eerie silence, making it impossible for me to calm down. I'd definitely get kicked out if a nurse saw me, so I made a dash for the PCs. I wasn't an idiot. I knew a thing or two about Western mythos and stuff, and I'd learned it all from anime, manga, and games I'd gone through. But even with all that, I'd never heard of the Gladiol saga before. The first time I'd even seen the name was when I looked into Ayase online. So without further ado, time to look it up. I got quite a few results, way more than I expected actually, which worried me. Maybe I really was the only one who didn't know about it. But as I looked closely at the results, I noticed one common denominator. All of them had something to do with Phantasm or Fez. Whenever the Gladiol saga was mentioned, it had to do with something Fez mentioned, or Phantasm's world building and other stuff like that. It was all a bunch of hearsay. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find any discussion on the actual contents of the book. There was a wiki entry for it, but it barely even touched upon the premise. Fictional. A series of high fantasy novels based on the Eastern European myth of Gladiol, the Wicked-Hearted King. Told over the course of 23 volumes, it depicts the battle between the 7 Black Knights and Gladiol. It is written by R.C.O. Ziegler from 1929 to 1951. The series has been translated into several languages, but it never gained widespread appeal due to its rather esoteric writing style. That was all that was written there. Compared to the pages on the other legends, each of which were filled to the brim with information, this one felt a little lacking. Even the wiki page on D-Swords went into more detail than this. And since this was wiki... whatever. The free encyclopedia that anyone could edit, there was really no way to verify its accuracy. The picture on the D-Sword page had been entirely off the mark, for example. In the end, there was one thought that kept coming to the forefront of my mind. What if the Gladiol saga was simply a product of Ayase's delusions? Maybe Ayase was trying to create some sort of Lovecraftian mythos or something. Hell, Lovecraft himself, if I remember correctly, had used his books to share his crazed delusions with others. If that was what Ayase was doing with her songs, then all of this, even though it might have sounded kind of cool, was just a whole load of crazy schizo bullshit. And to make things worse, Ayase didn't seem to realize that. She was confusing it with reality. Was everything Ayase told me nothing but her insane delusions? Maybe the whole apocalypse thing was simply some delusion she wanted to see. Typical Chunibyo stuff. Tortured kids who just wanted to see the world burn. Yeah, I guess that includes me. So, if that was true, then what exactly did Ayase actually want to happen? What kind of ending did she wish to reach? How did she want this legend to end? And was she someone I could trust? Why am I even questioning it? Ayase is all I have left. Rimi was gone, Seina was kind of scary, and Kazubi was unreliable. So it didn't matter how crazy she was. She could spout delusions all day for all I cared. Ayase was the only one I could rely on. Plus, she had a D-Sword. There was no denying that. And her songs had prophesized the new gen cases, whether they were based on delusions or not. Or new gen had been happening because her delusions were becoming reality. If anything, though, that just meant she was even more powerful than I thought. No harm in using that power to my advantage. I needed her, and luckily, for God knows what reason, she seemed to be interested in me. So as long as I took her words with a grain of salt, I'd probably be fine. Yep, it was all going to be just fine. Oh boy. Here we go. When I came back to the hospital room... Oh boy.
何時の痛みとなりて今解き放たれる
Hmm.
やがて叫びは宙に舞い夜空は赤く染まるだろう
Ayase was sitting on her bed, eating some hospital food. But wait, she wasn't actually eating it. She was just listlessly poking her frozen tofu with her chopsticks, all while quietly singing a song. It was one of the prophetic phantasm songs, the one that foretold the third new gen case, the crucifixion. It was called A Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin. I was familiar with it myself as I had bought the album. But in this case, Ayase wasn't striking a stake, rather she was striking her chopsticks into her tofu, or I suppose it was closer to stabbing. As soon as she saw me, she gave me a faint smile, as if relieved about something.
I don't think you would come back. Where'd you go?
I just wanted to look something up, so I went to go use the PCs in the lobby.
Sleep here tonight. With me.
Really? Bruh, the happy music starts playing. I flinched instinctively at Ayase's bold request. Had I tripped a flag without nosing?
Are you hungry?
Hey.
You may have some if you wish.
She picked up some frozen tofu with her chopsticks and offered it to me. Are you only offering because you don't want it?
Yes.
Damn. She pursed her lips into a smile.
Hostile food is abominable. The wicked heart is drenched in impurity. Its wicked heart is drenched in impurity. This I'm certain.
God damn it, Wicked Heart's this, Wicked Heart's that. Was that all she knew how to say? If the two of us were talking online, she'd have been banned for spamming by now. Then, is it still safe to eat, even if its Wicked Heart is tainted?
But yours is already tainted, is it not, Takumi? All those boxed lunches and instant noodles. They are a prime example of tainted food. If you wish to awaken at the Black Night, you should halt your intake of them.
What do you want me to eat? Flesh? Don't say flesh, I swear to God. Okay, well, what do you usually eat? I swear to God, if you say flesh, I'm gonna be very sad.
Chocolate.
I can work with this. Chocolate? Shouldn't that be tainted too?
Too good to be tainted.
Was that actually all she ate? Chocolate? Talk about an unbalanced diet. Hers was even worse than mine, what the fuck? Ah, yes. The perfect diet. Chocolate. A woman after my own heart.
Chocolate is fine. Its sweetness has the power to repel impurity.
I agree. The truly perfect food. Bullshit. You may talk fancy, but you just have a sweet tooth.
Anyhow, Takumi, open wide.
Ayase brought the frozen tofu closer to my face. Yeah, I'll pass. I'm not really a fan of frozen tofu either. I'm good.
I cannot accept that.
Bruh. What the fuck was going on? This wasn't fair. It was everyone's dream to hear a girl say, okay, say Oz, why did you do nothing for me? Maybe it was because the food was Ayase's unwanted leftovers, because she was a 3D girl. Well, she definitely wasn't going to give up trying to feed me, so I reluctantly opened my mouth. As I chewed the tofu, the broth spread throughout my mouth.
Very good. Now you're one step closer to becoming a Black Knight, Takumi.
I thought you said eating this would take me away from it. I sure didn't feel any closer.
And now for your vegetables.
What is happening? I still haven't forgotten the fact that you were caked in blood a minute ago. Please, Ayase, no more. I haven't forgotten that you were caked in blood a few minutes ago. You psychopath. When she finished feeding me, Ayase had once again started going on about the Gladio saga, but this time she really got into it. Even once the sun had started setting, she seemed oblivious to the fact that the room was getting darker. Not once had she thought to turn on the lights. For the most part, though, she'd pretty much just gone on in-depth on the things she'd already mentioned prior to that. Nothing really new. And she wasn't exactly the most engaging storyteller, so now I was starting to get sleepy. Though considering that Shogun was still out there, it probably wasn't smart to be dozing off.
And that is our duty. Do you understand this?
Absolutely. Yeah. I hadn't listened to a word she'd said, but I decided to just nod for now. But when I did, Ayase squinted at me, then moved in close.
You were not listening, were you?
She usually didn't show much in the way of emotion, but I guess even she could get mad under the right circumstances. Maybe I should apologize for upsetting her.
It seemed that impurity runs deeper than your wicked heart.
Oh my god, again with the wicked hearts.
So I see we will have to excise it before we proceed then. The impurity that has eroded your wicked heart.
Hey, stay away. I swear to god, if you pick up a D-sword and try and stab me with it, I'm going to get very upset.
If we do not, purity shall never be able to flourish within you.
Excise? I swear to god. What was she going to do to me? By the sound of it, some kind of terrifying heart surgery. It gave me the chills just thinking about it. But it seemed like my guess was off. With a slightly sorrowful expression, Ayase licked her lips. I caught a quick glimpse at her pink tongue. Stop it.
I should do anything to excise your impurity. If there is anything you desire, you must tell me.
What? Anything? Well, I still don't know what she meant by excise your impurity, but... Well, then, how about for starters... Would you even kiss me? Despite the darkness, I could see the rigidness of her expression. Oh, maybe I'd gotten a little too far. I really didn't want her to start hating me, and I definitely didn't want her to abandon me, so I rushed to apologize. Ah! Or at least I tried to, but she didn't give me the opportunity. Instead, she grabbed me by the collar and shoved me right into a nearby closet. I'm dead. What are you... She pressed her body up against mine, and then she closed the door behind us, leaving us tightly packed inside the closet. The closet was incredibly cramped. It wasn't designed for people. In order for two people to fit, they had to be pressed right up against each other. It didn't help that I could feel Ayase's stifled breaths on my ear either. Stop. What's going on?
The nurses are doing their rounds.
Oh, so that's why we were hiding. Visiting was prohibited at night, so obviously sleeping over was too. If they found out I was here, they'd kick me out immediately. Okay, but why was Ayase hiding with me?
There are enemies all around us, even in this hospital.
Enemies?
The harbingers of Gladiol. They lie in wait for any opportunity to subjugate our hearts.
Even the nurses were our enemies? Well, I can agree with Hazuki. Are you sure that's not just your persecution complex speak?
Quiet.
I had no clue what brought it on, but Ayase suddenly sealed my lips with hers. Ah! Ah! Her lips shook soft. Go! That was when I heard the door open, and at the same time some strange mechanical sound. Wherever they were trying to be stealthy, but I still heard them come through the door. There she is!
She's not here.
I heard a female voice. I felt like I'd heard it before, but I couldn't exactly remember when.
I worry she ran away. Could she have figured us out? You're right. Perhaps I went a little overboard with how many times I made contact.
She was talking to someone, but I couldn't hear the other person's voice. She must have been on the phone. Ayase's lips were still glued to mine. Her sweet aroma... Okay. Stop. There was probably someone really dangerous standing right outside the closet, but that's not any... Stop.
Have you finished your mission? Oh, so that was just step one. I see. It's about time I head for the scramble crossing then. See you later. May the divine light save you, Mamoru.
It seemed like they'd finished their conversation. And with that, the suspicious woman silently left the room. I could tell that the coast was clear. It would probably be safe to come out of the closet now. But Ayase still hadn't let go of me. She looked at me, tears welling in her eyes.
Takumi, I'll be your guide, and you will be the Messiah. It has been decided. Therefore, I will do anything. Any wish you have, I shall grant it.
I didn't really get what she was trying to say. I feared she was probably just spewing her crazy delusions again, but either way, I didn't mind.
Takumi.
Ayase kissed me again, except times was not the... Hey! It's coming out to breathe. Hey! Brain was paralyzing. Oh! A sharp I heard a sharp sound off in the distance. Startled by the noise, Ayase backed away.
What was that sound?
Her lips were soaked in a mixture of our saliva. Even the darkness was clearly visible. Okay. I couldn't care less about the sound. I just wanted to get... no! Wait, hold on. Had Ayase been with our mem before? If so, then wouldn't that kind of bring down the whole experience? Or maybe Rogue had just robbed my brain. Nah, there's no way Ayase had past experience. No, no. Okay!
You must take this lightly, Takumi.
Says... ah! Ayase had slapped me. My hopes and dreams were dashed in an instant. And in their place, anxiety arose. I felt like I was about to cry. Ayase was staring daggers at me, but I couldn't help but cling on to her all the same. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me.
Do not allow yourself to be dominated by your wicked heart. Let instead be absorbed into yourself. If you do not, you will never awaken at the Black Night. Never forget this.
Okay. Pretty sure the reason I'd gotten all turned on was because of the kiss, not all this wicked heart stuff, but I couldn't be bothered trying to argue with her.
Let's go.
Go where?
That sound we heard. That was a gunshot.
A gunshot? Here, in Japan, in a hospital. It didn't sound like one to me. Then again, I'd only ever heard them in movies and vidya, so it wasn't like I had any frame of reference as to what a real one sounded like. Even if that was a gunshot, what do you expect us to do about it?
This too has been foretold. The battle against the Wicked Heart King has already begun. The hearts of the Black Knights are soon to perish. So we must retrieve them, the D-Swords. That's the only thing we can do.
The Black Knights were going to perish. Had that bullet we heard been fired at someone. We should call the police.
That would serve no purpose. The police have long since been dominated by wicked hearts.
We were reaching an unprecedented levels of schizo here. Ayase had completely lost it. The Gladial Saga was nothing more than a delusion of hers. Everything she had said was nothing more than a delusion of hers. I'd asked myself earlier what kind of ending she wished to reach, and I was still asking. Seriously, what was her end goal here? And what the hell was I supposed to do?
Come now, Takumi.
Ayase was already on her way out. I hesitated to follow her. The swords are gone! But that was when I realized. The D-Swords are gone! The 3 D-Swords leaning against the window were gone. Had she taken them with her? I bit my lip, hesitating for just a moment longer, but in the end I decided to follow after her. The D-Swords are gone! Ayase had gone straight for the rooftop. It was almost as if she knew exactly where the gunshot had come from. There was no hesitation as she walked. The hospital's roof had been turned into some kind of garden. The plants were all fully grown, and the flowers were in full bloom, but it was too dark to tell what color they were. I hid behind Ayase and took a look around. I couldn't sense anyone there. In fact, I didn't sense any signs of life at all. Had the gunshot really come from here? And even if it had, who fired it? Guns weren't exactly common in Japan. We really should leave. If we say we might get shot... But Ayase didn't listen to my pleas. Instead, she moved even farther into the garden, meaning I pretty much had to follow her. What the... And then, I saw a dim blue light in front of me. It was extremely faint, as if it'd go out at any moment, but it was undeniably there, flickering in the darkness.
There's a D-Sword.
That's... It was unendingly elegant, and yet it possessed a razor-sharp edge, as if it longed to cut down all around it. Its presence was completely otherworldly. 2 people were lying on the concrete near the D-Sword. That's Yua's D-Sword. I recognized them. Yua! The girl in the school uniform with eyes pointing up at the sky was Yua. No doubt about it. What was she doing here? And the other person was a middle-aged man. Looking at him closely, I realized it was the same detective that had questioned me after the crucifixion case. They were both lying on the ground, completely still. I carefully approached them. That was when I noticed the puddle of blood around them. I jumped back in shock, but it was too late. The crimson liquid had already colored the bottom of my shoes. The detective's body was especially soaked in blood. You, on the other hand, didn't seem to be wounded. the hell had happened here? Why were you and the detective together? Now that I knew there was a detective involved, the gunshot made more sense, but who had he shot at? You, A million questions were racing through my head. So many, in fact, that I couldn't even begin to organize them. I couldn't handle the confusion, so I turned to Ayase for help. Looking as solemn as ever, she ignored the detective and approached Yua's body. Stopping right in front of the pool of blood, she kneeled beside Yua and felt her neck with her fingers.
There's a pulse. Her body still lives. But her heart does not. It's perished.
What do you mean her heart's perished?
As for the man, his end has already come.
She was speaking in her usual indifferent tone. How can you be so calm right now? That guy's dead!
Just as I said before, this has been foretold.
The fuck do you mean foretold?
You
sure this isn't a delusion you wish to become reality or something?
It is possible. There's no way to know for certain.
What?
It is of no consequence. The origin matters not.
Then Ayase stood up. And pulled her D-sword out of thin air. She took her D-sword, glowing bright red, and touched it against the D-sword that was stuck in the ground. Suddenly, a high-pitched resonance reverberated through the air. A resonance so shrill it felt like a drill was carving a hole in my ear. Or at least that was the image that the feeling invoked. Immediately after the sound began, the shapes of the two D-swords began to effortlessly distort. Their transformation completely ignored the laws of physics. It was like they were made of liquid or clay. The two swords warped repeatedly, as if writhing in pain. The resonating sound only got worse. Unable to bear it, I tried plugging my ears, but it didn't help in the slightest. Until suddenly a shockwave ripped through the air. Before I could even begin to understand what was happening, the D-sword in the ground was in Ayase's left hand. Ayase must have been in agony. Her expression made that very clear. But only a moment later, she looked at me and smiled. She was even blushing slightly, almost like, okay.
This is the fourth one.
Even though there were corpses right in front of her, and whoever shot the middle-aged detective was probably still nearby. How could she put that sword over literally everything else? Was it really that necessary to get the ending she wished to reach? Did she really need all 7 D-swords to defeat Gladiol? Did Gladiol even exist?
All those who have become gigalomaniacs broke at some point in their lives.
I remember what Sen had told me. I suppose that meant Ayase had also broken at some point. Did that mean I'd eventually break too? Well, the eventually was probably unnecessary. After all, I already felt like I was going to break thanks to everything happening with Ayase. Ayase quickly erased the D-swords. The two of them vanished, as if dissipating into the air itself. So, should we report this to the police? He was my enemy. I wouldn't lose any sleep about leaving her body here among all the carnage. But I'd already stepped in the blood. My shoes were leaving red footprints all over the pavement, which would yet again be enough to make me a suspect.
We will not be doing that.
A wave of relief washed over me. Ayase was gazing up at the night sky. Her expression still seemed slightly sorrowful.
It's drawing near.
Drawing near? What was?
According to Ziegler's prophecy, Gladiol's awakening is upon us. Be vigilant, Takumi. Calamity is about to befall this world. You're about to experience a world, the likes of which you have never seen before. But you mustn't lose heart. If you do, overthrowing Gladiol will be impossible.
Ayase's voice lacked its usual composure. It was almost like she was scared. Would it really be that bad? Whatever was about to happen? Or should I say, the delusion that she was about to turn into reality? I'm not ready yet.
Then hurry and ready yourself. We are out of time.
Ready myself? Colonel, that's easier said than done. I don't even know what you think is supposed to happen. So what am I supposed to do?
The world shall soon fuse. Their consolidation has begun.
Ayase mumbled that to herself, looking up at the sky. I decided to look up at it too. Oh no! In the sky, I could see a single spot dyed a vivid white.
A white so bright stuck out like a sore thumb in the night sky. What even was that? I gulped. Come to think of it, hadn't some people reported that the sky had turned white right before the last earthquake? The white spot was gradually expanding, and an inexplicable sense of restlessness to it. It left me completely speechless.
Gladio has awakened.
Oh no. Oh gosh. The third melt.
The earth trembled. The building shook. No, it wasn't just the building shaking. Everything was. The white spot in the sky grew even bigger. Then we were immediately assaulted by a violent buzzing noise, one that sounds similar to the resonance of the D-sword from before. My head felt like it was about to explode. And then...
Incoming! Whoop!
the world was dyed completely white. Was I dreaming? Even though it had been white only a moment ago, the sky was dyed red.
This is different.
The world itself had turned a rusty vermilion. This couldn't be real. It had to be just an art delusion. Or at least that was what I tried to tell myself. All across the sky, I could see the clouds upon clouds of black miasma. They seemed almost humanoid in shape. They had to be illusions, though, even if they were unusually vivid. The clouds of haze spontaneously flickered in and out of sight. When I thought one had disappeared, one would pop up. It would pop up somewhere else a moment later. The blots of black miasma were innumerable. Just looking at them made me feel uncomfortable. And there was this intense, rotten-smelling stench. It was so bad it nearly brought me to vomit. I didn't want to be here for even a second longer. That feeling was as strong as could be.
Ayase! Oh hey, it's normal again.
When I came to, the sky had brightened up a little, and Shibuya had transformed into a city of death. AH Hospital was still standing, but cracks ran up the walls, and the interior was in complete disarray. I only barely managed to make it out. The entrance to the outpatient clinic was swarmed with ambulances. The place was overflowing with people trampling each other over, fighting for medical attention. When I had woken up, Ayase had smiled at me and said, "Let's return to Shibuya." It had been just before 6 a.m. at that point, which meant that I'd been out for over 10 hours. Yua's body was nowhere to be found. I asked Ayase if she knew what happened to it, but she didn't seem to know.
Oh boy!
Shibuya was hardly a 5-minute train ride from Yogogi, but due to the earthquake, all public transport was halted. The railroad had been torn to shreds, meaning there was no way it was going to be restored within a day. So we were forced to walk, something that was way harder than it sounds. The road was full of holes, and rubble was from fallen buildings was constantly in our way. It was difficult to even walk in a straight line. As a result, the trip back to Shibuya Station ended up being a 3-hour struggle. The surrounding area had been completely annihilated. Almost all of the buildings had collapsed. Countless bodies were strewn all around us. They were so pitiful I couldn't stand to look at them. There were also a number of people still alive. Some were like us, just wandering along in complete shock, while others were crouched by the rubble, waiting for help to arrive. And of course, there were many people clinging onto dead bodies as they bawled their eyes out. Even though they had survived, they all still seemed dead, like the trauma had drained them of every ounce of life they'd once had. The terrible odor of death and of blood and dust filled the air, making even the act of breathing completely unbearable. Was this Gladiol's doing? Was Gladiol the name of the earthquake, maybe? I suppose that would make sense. They always gave their hurricanes names in America, like Andrew or Katrina. Was this how Ayase won things end? Was this the ending she wished to reach? Then again, if you wanted to bring about the apocalypse, this would probably be the best way to do it. There was no way a single person could cause a catastrophe on the scale, even with the powers of a Gigglemaniac or a Black Knight, as Ayase liked to call them. She had said that the world shall fuse and all shall be consolidated or whatever. But what exactly had she meant by that? While following behind Ayase through the city, I took a peek at the side of her face. Unsurprisingly, even Ayase had turned pale when faced with the current state of Shibuya. She walked in silence, clenching her jaws, trying to endure an intense pain.
Listen up, everyone. This place is dangerous. We all have to hurry to the evacuation site.
A middle-aged man in a suit was screaming into the crowd. He was calling out to all the survivors in the area, us included.
You stay here waiting for help, and I will hit before you know it. But if you go now, you can make it to the evacuation site before then. Please, don't stay here any longer. Even if it hurts to stand, you gotta get up and get out of here. We've already escaped death once now, and we owe it to the dead to keep on living.
Where the hell did that old guy got on so much energy from? A few people listening started moving toward him, but most people stayed put. Ayase didn't even look at him. She just kept moving on toward her destination, and I had no choice but to follow. Suddenly, I felt a throbbing pain in my head. Ever since we'd left Yogogi, I'd been getting headaches just like this.
Please stand up. Why aren't you listening? It's dangerous. You could get crushed by the rubble. I just want all of you to survive.
My head hurt. What the? Suddenly the world was dyed red once more. The sky was covered by vermilion clouds. It was the exact same thing I'd seen in my dream. The asphalt of the road, the concrete of the debris, the buildings, the shattered glass on the ground, the abandoned broken down cars, the uprooted trees from the sidewalk. All of it had been corroded, overtaken by rust. Maniacal laughter echoed throughout the area. It was coming from the same person who had just been trying to get everyone to take refuge just a second ago. His body was covered in a cloud of black miasma. But it wasn't just him. Excluding the dead bodies, there were clouds of miasma around everyone I could see. The hazes were nearly human-sized. They swayed back and forth rhythmically, each one unusually vivid. It was a horrid sight. It was exactly like in my dream. The man's laughter was starting to annoy me. Looking back toward him, I noticed that, for some odd reason, he had an assault rifle pointed straight at me.
Police are gone, so I can kill as many people as I want.
He started spraying bullets. I immediately hit the ground. I'd been shot. Or so I thought. I had undoubtedly been standing right in his line of fire. But I didn't feel any pain. I lifted up my head to double check.
Please just go to the evacuation site. They have water, food, and blankets too. There's no reason to stay here.
He wasn't holding a gun anymore. He was just pleading with the crowd around him.
So please, keep on fighting to survive. Don't die in vain.
But it all changed so suddenly. For a split second, the man's body was covered in static. Before the static, he'd had his hands raised up in the air. But after it, the hand was holding a gun. Doing that so quickly was humanly impossible. It was barely even coherent. It couldn't possibly be real. It was almost like watching a movie with severely jarring jump cuts. And then he started firing again. The people that were shot fell to the ground, blood spurting everywhere. Their screams echoed through the air. And yet somehow none of the bullets were hitting me. I felt like I was in a movie. It wasn't real life. Takumi? Ayase? When I heard my name, I came back to my senses. Ayase was staring at me. She looked like she was about to say something, but in the end she didn't. She simply turned her back and kept on walking. I took a look at the sky. It was cloudy, but not red. The surrounding scenery was overcast by a dark gray, no vermilion in sight. The Shira had gone back to pleading with everyone to evacuate. All the people who had been shot were now unharmed, and none of them were engulfed by black miasmate. What the hell just happened? Another one of my delusions? If it had actually been, then I must have really lost my touch. That delusion hadn't even been slightly realistic. It had been like a movie or a video game or something. Takumi, hurry. Ayase urged me forward. Where the hell was she going anyway? Was she headed for the evacuation site, the one the guy was yelling about? I'm half expecting we're gonna start seeing murder. If that was true, then she wasn't going the right way. Instead, she went right into the Inoakashira line station. What the hell was she thinking? Wait, isn't this where... Oh. There were no staff members at the station, and the trains were all stopped in place. Ayase made her way down to the tracks and started walking along them. Naturally, the tunnel was pitch black. It wasn't designed to be traversed on foot, after all. It hadn't collapsed yet, but it felt like it was only a matter of time before it did. I would never have imagined that I'd have ended up walking on railroad tracks like this. What an adventure, though.
I should make a movie about it. Wait, pretty sure there already was one. Granted, it came out before I was born, so I obviously hadn't seen it. I just knew it was about some people walking down railroad tracks to find a body. Meanwhile, walking through this underground tunnel wasn't nearly as exciting. If we continued along this route, we'd eventually pass by the Shinsen and Komaba Todame, Ikenoe, and Shimo Kitazawa stations. I butchered those names severely, and I apologize for that. Getting in and out of Shibuya had been made incredibly difficult, so using the subway tunnels was actually a pretty good escape plan. But we had started in Yoyogi, and now we were heading towards Shibuya, so something told me that Ayase wasn't using this as an escape route. Where are we going?
Shinsen Station.
The hell was the point of going there? Maybe she was planning to head to Suime from there, or maybe my base. Actually, I never told her where my base was, so probably not the second one. Speaking of which, I wondered if Seraton had survived. What if the Kurenai conference hall had collapsed because of the earthquake? Oh god, all my poor waifus could be buried in rubble. Suddenly my trivial concerns were interrupted by a bright light. Uh-oh. There was a railroad crossing right before Shinsen Station, where light from the sky peeked in from above. After the crossing, the rails went into another dark tunnel, and after that was the Shinsen Station platform. The lights at the platform were out, likely due to the earthquake. It was pretty damn dark. There was almost no one around. All I could see were two girls sitting on the platform. Judging by their uniforms, they were Suime students. Ayase approached them without a hint of hesitation. Maybe she knew them or something. As we got closer, their figures in the darkness became clearer. My brow furrowed. I feel like I'd seen them somewhere before. And then I realized exactly who they were. It's Kozue and Seina, right? Seina! Kozupi! But something was wrong with them. They should have been able to hear us coming, but they didn't even turn to look at us. No, they just sat there, their heads looking down at the ground, not moving. Seina? Kozupi? I tried calling out to them, but the two who still didn't respond. What the hell was up with them? Are they dead?
The hearts of the Black Knights are soon to perish. So we must retrieve them. The D-Swords.
Wait, no fucking way. I rushed over to the girls in a panic, then peered into Seina's eyes. Seina's eyes were devoid of life. They were completely hollow. With no light left within them, they stared into nothingness. Those sharp eyes of hers, always glaring at everyone and everything. Not a single trace remained of them. She was trying to murmur something, but her voice was so incredibly faint, all that came out was a mere croak. I couldn't make a single word she'd said. Kozubi was the same. The light behind her eyes had died out. Her mouth hung open, drool trickling down her cheek. She tried to speak, but her voice was too hoarse to understand. Something had happened to them. What the hell was going on in the city? I was absolutely clueless, so I turned to Ayase for answers. But she didn't seem remotely interested in their fates. Their D-swords were lying nearby. Ayase took her own sword and brought it near them. The same shrill sound from before reverberated throughout the station. The 3 D-swords began to warp and transform. Once again... Then came the shockwave, assaulting my body like a fierce gust of wind. And once it passed, Ayase was holding Seina and Kazupi's D-swords. How are you holding all 3?
That makes 6.
Flushing in a pair... Okay.
Takumi, the only one left is yours. You must obtain it.
How the hell could she be so calm right now? My frustration was then met by the same throbbing pain in my head as before. The world turned red once again. Everything began rusting, rotting, and eroding away. I could smell strong odor coming from Kazupi. Kazupi slowly rose up from the ground. Her entire body was dyed red. Was that blood? Or rust? I don't like that.
Kazupi's gonna kill you.
Kazupi raised her head. Her face was covered by a black miasma. Don't like it. The sheer bloodthirst coming from her was terrifying. And Kazupi stretched out her thin arms as if to try and strangle me. But when I blinked, she had somehow ended back on the ground. Her head hanging downward, she had an indescribable expression on her face.
Kazupi's gonna kill you.
static rang in my ears, and Kazubi instantly teleported beside me. The black miasma grazed my shoulder. A ghastly cold sent a chill down my spine.
Kazubi's gonna kill everyone. You're next, Takumi-chan. Kazubi's mirror will shred you to pieces.
Her whispers were emotionless and robotic, but that only made them all the more horrifying. I blinked once more. Seina's body was slumped over on the ground. She'd been cut to pieces. Kazubi violently swung down her arms and stabbed Seina in the head with a sharp shard of glass. Dark blood stained Seina's long, beautiful black hair. Kazubi then raised the piece of glass in the air and stabbed her once more. Static. Now Kazubi was on the ground instead of Seina, and Seina had mounted a homeless man that had appeared out of nowhere. Her head was buried in his shoulder. Her head was moving up and down constantly. What was she doing? Her hair was covering her face, so I couldn't really tell. That is until she finally looked up. The man's shoulder was stained in blood. His flesh was minced like ground beef. And I could even make out a little bit of pink muscle glistening from within. Was that blood? Muscle? Rust?
You stay so
Okay. Seina finally turned around, and I could now see the blood surrounding her mouth. She was chewing on something, devouring it. Please don't show me a cannibal, Seina. Thank you. I appreciate it. My legs trembled, and the second I lost my balance and collapsed to the ground, the world returned to its original color. My headache had vanished, too. I pressed my hand against my forehead and shook my head intensely. I felt extremely sick, like I was about to vomit. It didn't really feel like a panic attack or shock or anything like that. It's more like a poison was slowly trickling through my veins, spreading through my entire body. One that hit me with a horrible, sinking feeling that weighed heavily on my mind. I raised my head and looked at Seina and Kazubi. They were still where they had originally been, on the ground, motionless.
What happened?
Ayase held out her hand. It was the same look from earlier, one that told me she had something more to say. I took her hand and stood up from the ground. Losing it. When we left Seina and Kazubi as they were, I wanted to help them, but I really didn't have the strength to do so, and Ayase didn't care in the slightest. We made our way back to Shibuya Station. On the way, we saw countless wounded people on the ground, and just as many dead bodies laying around. Ayase looked up at the sky with her usual distant expression. Trying to stave off my nausea, I asked her a question. What sort of ending are you aiming here, Ayase?
Ending.
Remy was missing in action. Seina and Kazubi had both had their minds broken. Ayase had already taken the sword from all the Giglomaniac girls. Or maybe stolen would be more appropriate. She had to have orchestrated all of it. How could she have not? There's no way she just happened to find a bunch of out-for-the-count, mind-broken Giglomaniacs that all had their D-swords out. There was just no way. If she was behind it all, then the earthquake was also her doing, and Gladio was just a legend she'd made up. Can you say for sure that this earthquake isn't your delusion? You wanted this to happen, didn't you?
I wonder.
Why would you wish for this?
Do not rush to conclusions, Takumi. All this was foretold by Zygler. I only happen to know of it. That's all there is to it.
But that Gladio book has to be a delusion! The book doesn't exist anywhere else!
You saw it, Takumi. In my hospital room.
Yeah, I saw it, but it was completely blank!
You were merely unable to read it, Takumi.
There's no way it's that simple. You have to be lying. You can't fool me.
There are 6.7 billion worlds. As many as there are people. What can be seen in each one differs from world to world. No two can ever be identical. So neither can yours and mine.
If that's true, then link me to your sources. But you can't, can you? Ayase stared at me, then furrowed her brow. She seemed a little perplexed. It was almost like she was forcing herself not to show any emotion.
Do you wish to see it? The world that I see.
If that's possible, then yeah. Quite doubt I'd believe it when you show me anyway.
You misunderstand, Takumi. You can already see my world. Little by little, you're beginning to synchronize with it.
What are... The red. It's what she sees. The world rusted over once more. Those collapsed on the ground were engulfed by black miasmate. And I could see the head of a child crushed by the debris poking out through the cracks, and a man who was probably their dad trying to save them. Sack rang in my ears again. And then in an action that was incomprehensible to me, the dad stomped on the child's head. Their head split open like a watermelon, and was subsequently crushed by their father's foot. Blood and gray matter splashed onto the ground. The sack came again. The child's head was now completely intact. I could hear their dad cry out to them, "Hold on, I'll get you out of there." Static. The child had escaped from beneath the rubble, and now they were stabbing their father over and over again, and with a knife. "Fucking useless, you old fuck," they jeered. A young couple were sitting in a somewhat remote spot. The two were under the same blanket, huddled right next to each other. And the sack came again. The two... Okay! The scream stopped with more sounds of static. The two were back together as if nothing had happened. The two middle-aged women were limping down the road. They were likely sisters. The stack flashed, and one of them grabbed the other by the hair in an instant. She then began to yank on it in an attempt to uproot completely, and with the fierce sound of tearing, she mostly succeeded. The sack soon flashed again, and her hair was back to normal. What the hell is this?
It's my world.
It was her world? It wasn't my delusion, but Ayase's? Wait, was it even a delusion? Or was it reality? A black miasma was hovering over Ayase's chest too. But really, I didn't want to see any of them anymore, so I instinctively looked away.
What color's the sky you normally see, Takumi?
What do you mean, what color? It's blue.
Is that blue?
Ayase pointed up to the sky. It was a shade of red. That's vermilion.
Vermilion. So that color is not blue.
Ask anyone, they tell you that that's not it. Anyone with common sense, that is.
To me, that color is blue.
What was she saying?
Takumi, can you explain to me? What sort of color is blue?
I don't know. It's the color of the sky.
That's the only color I've ever seen in the sky.
But everyone knows what kind of color blue is.
I do not. Please explain to me, without an example this time. What sort of color is blue?
Without an example, how was I supposed to... I tried thinking of a way to explain it, but I came up empty-handed. I just couldn't come up with a way to describe the color blue. Upon noticing my complete lost words, Ayase gave me a sad smile.
I told you, there are 6.7 billion worlds. Meaning there are 6.7 billion ways of seeing what color the sky is. You cannot assume that everyone sees things the same way you do.
The scenery went back to normal. This color was my world's. Ayase, do you always see the world like that? Ayase gave a slight nod.
Ever since the day I was born, I thought that was just how things were. How the world was structured. I suppose I was wrong. Something I only learned when you told me, Takumi.
What's that black miasma?
A wicked heart. Everyone has one, as long as they are human. Gladio feeds upon those wicked hearts in order to manifest. Did you see them? The negative delusions of man.
Wait, was the stack causing negative delusions to bubble up to the surface? Is that why I've been seeing all that inhuman savagery?
I have always seen them. I'm sure all Black Knights can, to varying degrees. They are home to nothing but true malice, pure, unadulterated desire.
Had Ayase been seeing a world like that ever since she was born?
Takumi, the ending I wish for is one where we break ourselves free from this corroded world. And to do that, we must overthrow Gladio. Ayase moved closer to me. So please, find it. Your only hope, Takumi. Please find your D-sword. I can't. Unable to bear it any longer, I pushed Ayase by her shoulders. Ayase's eyes opened wide in shock. Why? Are you giving up? I'm not this amazing person you think I am, Ayase. No matter how much I want it, how much I wish for it, it doesn't feel like I'm even close to getting a D-sword. I was saying back at O Front, it stayed the same, even after the earthquake. I can't figure out how to do it, so I know that I can't, and won't get a D-sword. I never will. I have no faith in myself. Then why did you save me? Ayase drew even closer. I took a step back, trying to stay away from her. What do you mean, saved you? When I leapt from the school rooftop, you gave birth to a world where there was a flower bed. And that's why I could not ascend my spirit to a higher stage. It was a fluke. I hadn't done it intentionally. But I'm fine with that. Because of what you did, I learned of your power. From that moment on, you became my only hope. Please don't place all your hope in someone on a whim. Please stop expecting anything from me. Takumi, you mustn't degrade yourself so. That's merely the wicked-hearted king's invasion of your mental space. You cannot and must not let him win. You're powerful. Truly. Come what may, you will obtain your D-sword. I know you will. I told you it's impossible. I can't. Before I thought that I might as well just stick with Ayase. I had no one else that could have protected me after all. But the more time we spent together, it became very clear to me. I couldn't understand how Ayase thought at all. The difference in how our minds perceived the world around us was just too great. And if I was being honest, I was fed up with how fucking batshit insane she was. She was a complete mental case, through and through. I really am a horrible person. And I've always been that way. I've never changed. How could you say that? Ayase clung to me, tears welling in her eyes. It wasn't the calm, aloof Ayase I was used to. I do not want to stay in a world like this any longer. Please, set me free. You are my only hope. We must awaken as a Black Knight. You can! Yes, you can. Not good. I synchronized with her world once again. A black miasma poured out of Ayase's chest and entwined itself around my body. It slithered around the top of my skin like an anaconda slowly strangling its prey to death. Its repulsive, chilling presence was enough to give me goosebumps. It was Ayase's pure, unadulterated desire. I, just like any other person, wasn't used to seeing people's naked emotions. A flash of static. You are my hope. Ayase stared at me. Her eyes dyed pitch black. I will not let you go. You will stay with me, no matter what I must do to meet that end. Ayase's fingers started undoing the... Okay! Mute the game again! I want to. She was as close as could possibly be, just like the time we made out of the hospital room. I was like a deer in headlights. Once she could finish doing all my buttons, my chest was exposed, but she hadn't stopped. She moved down and took out my belt. Okay. I want your power. I just called fingertips pressed my chest, and then her nails dug into me. The pain was so intense, and yet I still couldn't move an inch. I want it. Her fingers gouged out my flesh. They raked their ways to my bones. Her hand reached deep inside, then gently embraced my pounding heart. I was trembling. Out of fear, out of pain, out of the cool sensation of Ayase's fingers. It's so warm. May I have it? I'm gonna risk this, but... Stop! Damn it!
feel my blood vessels exploding. Copious amounts of blood spilled from my chest. She took it out. My heart, she... The world switched colors in an instant. I'd gone back to its original, dull color. The rust had vanished, and I was completely unharmed. I put my hand on my chest. Thankfully, I could feel it beating. My heart was still there. Ayase was standing in front of me, clutching herself with both arms. She looked so incredibly sad, like she was about to burst into tears at any moment. There it was again. The same look as when she had taken Yu's D-sword. The same as when I had first seen her world back at the Scramble Crossing. The same as when she had obtained Seina's and Kazupi's D-swords. Ayase looked back at me on the verge of tears, doing everything she could to hold them back.
Takumi. I didn't mean to do that. My wicked heart spiraled out of control, as did I. Perhaps because I took in too many D-swords. I am descending into madness, brought forth by the wicked-hearted king's erosion of my mind. Wasn't it all just another one of her delusions? Wasn't it all just fake words meant to trick me? Those thoughts suddenly came to mind, but I didn't say them aloud. I just couldn't. Ayase was a girl who rarely showed any emotion, with her unwavering tone giving her clear command of any conversation she ever had. That was why it was so hard to see her like this. I'd never seen her so sad before. She looked so fragile, like she could fall apart at even the slightest touch. Because of that, I knew that I couldn't tell her what I was really thinking. What should I do? When those words left my lips, the slightest of tears began to flow from the corner of her eyes. She looked to me with a gaze that showed how much she truly needed me. And be subjugated by the wicked-hearted king. If nothing is done, I will not be able to remain conscious. Therefore, excise the impurity, the erosion of my wicked heart. Excise it? How? You saw my world, did you not? That black miasma is the manifestation of the impurity dwelling within people's wicked hearts. Their true malice. Press that and uproot from my body. There's no way. I can never do something so horrifying. Please, Takumi. I want to be myself. Please rescue me from my world. Sorry, I need to check something. Losing her balance, Ayase fell to the ground. Her figure was as frail as could be. But we had made a promise to each other, one she had said herself. I will protect you. So please, protect me as well. Seina and Kazupi had already been broken, and Rimi was nowhere to be found. I didn't want to lose Ayase too. There was an element of selfishness to it. But most of all, I wanted to help her. I was fully aware that it wasn't within my ability to do so. But still, even if Ayase really was some crazy, hopelessly schizo girl, even if all of this was just her delusion, I wanted to help her with all my heart. But as I realized that sentiment, the world turned to rust yet again. The snake-shaped black miasma pouring out of Ayase's chest reared its head. Just looking at it made me feel sick. I felt like something was pressing down on my chest, and I couldn't look away. But even if I could, it wouldn't change anything. That's why I knew I had to try and face it head-on. But I couldn't bear it. I felt like my chest was being crushed. My migraine was splitting my head apart. I couldn't do it. I never could have.
I didn't have the strength to help anyone. I looked up in response to Ayase's call. She held her hand out to me, her tear-filled eyes locked with mine.
Come. Do as you wish.
She showed complete trust. Perhaps she was depending on me. I never had someone depend on me before. My mind was about to crumble, but Ayase's voice just barely managed to keep it together. I bit my lip, and then I took a step forward towards Ayase. With me as its new prey, Ayase's black miasma moved toward me and entwined itself around my neck. It was so cold. It nearly tricked my mind into thinking it was hot. It eased me into its embrace, but all the while it was gently strangling me to death. Ayase leaned against me. Her body had gone completely limp. I was forced to support her entire body weight.
Takumi.
I tightly embraced. Okay. You really sure about this?
I am.
With a gulp, I reached my hand toward the black miasma pouring out of her chest. Following only an ephemeral moment, the miasma changed form into that of a black leech, an act that only served to make it all the more repulsive. That was Ayase's wicked heart, laid bare. The most hideous part of herself that she didn't want anyone else to see. That was what the mass was. I took hold of the leech's body. It was extremely slippery and it was cold. So cold it stung to my palm. I wanted to let go the second I grabbed it, but in a desperate attempt to hold on, I clenched my teeth and endured it. Ayase groaned in pain, her face a horrid mixture of ecstasy and agony.
Ow.
I tried pulling with all my might, but I could feel her flesh being torn apart. Black liquid burst from her chest, covering my body from head to toe. Whether it was blood or something else, I didn't know. Despite all this, I pressed on, pulling on the leech as hard as I could. You okay? Unable to take her screams any longer, I stopped my hands in place. Hands atop which Ayase had placed her own.
Do not stop. It's working.
Even though her body was drenched in sweat, Ayase firmly reassured me. I couldn't hesitate again. If I did, I'd only be torturing her.
Come out!
Using every ounce of strength I had, I grasped the leech and pulled it out. Ayase's body twisted and writhed. The leech slithered around. It was a lot longer than I thought it'd be. The leech curled into a circular mass, then wrapped itself around my arm. It tightened hard against my fist. I guess it was the wicked heart's last stand. I clenched my teeth to endure the pain. I was glad that I got it off Ayase at least, but I wasn't sure what to do with it now.
Right.
Having entrusted her entire body to me, Ayase gently caressed my cheek.
And by your hand, the impure wicked heart shall be reborn to one of the purest wickedness.
The black wicked heart wriggling on my arm suddenly shone violet. A sound burst forth from it. A sound so shrill it was akin to the loudest of screams. A D-sword. The wicked heart turned into a sword. Is this a D-sword? I wanted one so bad, but I'd never been able to get one no matter how hard I tried. But now it was finally in my grasp. Ayase's wicked heart had transformed into a D-sword.
You finally awakened, Takumi.
Even amid her intense pains, Ayase smiled in my arms. Sweat ran down her brow profusely, adhering her bangs to her forehead.
Thank you so much for awakening.
What had I done to deserve her gratitude? I didn't know. I had no faith in myself.
Takumi.
Ayase draped her hands around my neck, and then tightly embraced me.
You're the only one. The only one to ever listen to me. I am overjoyed. Truly overjoyed.
Ayase's body was really warm. The black liquid on her chest was slowly turning red. Her blood stained my clothes. But I didn't care. I held Ayase tightly in acceptance. She still had trouble breathing.
I could feel her back tremble with each breath. The smell of her sweat rose in the air. Even that part of her was lovely as the rest.
I love you.
Had Ayase fallen in love? I may or may not depend on her, but I know she depends on me. So I don't think a relationship like this will be too bad. Just the two of us. Suddenly, the sky behind Ayase's shoulders caught my attention. It was changing from vermilion to black, but only in a single spot. Or perhaps it was merely an illusion, and in reality the spot was just a star. Nonetheless, the spot gradually grew bigger. If it continued at such speed, it would soon blanket the entire sky. What is that? I mumbled that to myself, completely dumbfounded. Also noticing the unnatural phenomenon, Ayase quickly stood back up, using my shoulders to help herself do so.
As the awakened wicked-hearted king, his invasion has finally begun. In the end, was I too late? Can I do nothing to stop it? That I cannot accept.
Ayase brought forth her D-sword, materializing it from empty space. What are you planning to do?
It was written in the Gladio Book of Psalms and Revelation. Once the 7 D-swords are gathered, the colossal sermon of darkness shall appear. It's the embodiment of the purity of wicked hearts. A one wicked heart capable of slaughtering another. A being that can devour the corrosion, shatter the wicked-hearted king's body, and instill heterogeneity into his homogeneity. We must make the colossal serpent appear, so that it may overthrow Gladiol.
Ayase was still trembling, and yet she readied her D-sword all the same, and closed her eyes the very next moment. It almost seemed like she was meditating. But even after waiting a moment, nothing happened. Meanwhile, the sky had turned fully black. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought it was nighttime. But no, the sun hadn't set. It was the black miasma, amalgamated into a mist that was spreading across Shibuya. Transforming into a wave, it sought to drown the city in wicked hearts. It slowly crept over the rubble-filled earth, painting every inch it touched black. Silently, it eroded. It swept over our feet. A croak of despair came from my mouth. The corroded world was now rotting away. It decomposed, crumbled, and then it all returned to nothing. People, corpses, and debris alike, everything slowly melted together and formed the amalgam and from the amalgam came an overpowering, rotten stench.
Ayase,
can't you do something?
Why?
Ayase wasn't responding to me. She simply stared at the D-sword she held in her hand, her eyes on the verge of tears.
We collected all 7 D-swords. So why does it not appear? If left unabated, Gladiol will swallow the world whole. I truly have to gather all 7 Black Knights themselves. I must have had to follow the prophecy precisely. And I failed.
The black wave was growing even faster than before. It had only been up to my ankles a few seconds ago, but now it was already up to my knees. Strangely enough, I felt some resistance to the flow of it. Did it actually have a physical substance? Was it really not just a simple illusion? Filled with horror, a shiver ran down my spine. Shibuya was actually going to rot away. Ayase, just come up with a delusion. A delusion that will defeat Gladiol. I'm able to hold it any longer, I screamed at her, but Ayase just shook her head.
The books of Gladiol are not my delusion.
Even then, it should be possible for you, or even me, to just distort the prophecy, come up with a new delusion, making it reality, right? Isn't that what people make Black Knights do?
Takumi.
Ayase stared my way, her gaze pleading with me.
I do not know what to do.
Oh God. I was at a loss for words. The world was covered by the black miasma. The sky was pitch black, blocking out any and all light. Not even a single star remained. The black wave was already up to my hips, and it felt like I was going to be washed away by its current any second now. It took everything I had to stay standing. The corpse beside me melted into liquid. It was then swept away by the churning waters. If I let it swallow me up, that was exactly what would happen to me too. The mere thought terrified me so much I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs.
What do I do? What the hell do I do? I desperately tried to think of a solution, but I couldn't come up with any. I was no hero. I was just an otaku freak. Even though I'd finally gotten a D-sword, I had no idea how to use it. So that ended up being just as useless as me. Everyone would be better off if I just died. I should just get impaled by a bunch of stakes and bleed out, like in the crucifixion case. But right when I thought that, I suddenly remembered something. The songs Fess had written. Their lyrics. Sing. Sing a song. Despite how it might sound, it wasn't something I'd come up with as a last resort. No, I was convinced that it was the best and only solution I could have ever come up with. Your songs are how you share your delusions with the world, Ayase. The world she spun with them captivated the youth of Shibuya. The Gladio Saga was a legend of dubious authenticity that might or might not have been true. It could have all just been Ayase's delusion, and she was the only one who had any knowledge of it. But that didn't matter. That legend had been spread to the youth of Shibuya through Phantasm's songs. Therefore, mutual recognition had already been achieved. So sing your heart out. Sing a song to overthrow Gladio Fez.
You're telling me to sing. Right now.
Didn't you say that guidance appears through song or something?
Yes, I did say that. And then I came to meet you at that concert, Takumi. Takumi.
Ayase extended her hand to me. I took her hand in my own and squeezed it tightly.
Do you like my songs, Takumi?
Yeah. I listened to the album I bought from that concert many times. I left the concert earlier due to my fear of crowds, but she made me want to try again and again and again. However many times it would take. Sing me not along, Ayase smiled blissfully.
Well, if your words are true, then I'm not bothered by the idea of perishing here. I'll sing. Listen well, Takumi.
Ayase closed her eyes, took a few moments to focus, before finally letting out a deep breath. Then she opened her eyes. She was no longer Ayase anymore. She was Fez from Phantasm.
A contract of blood to seal our sin.
She quietly murmured the song's name, and then she burst into song. Her voice reverberated toward the pitch-black sky. The lyrics were a hint. Ayase, strike the stake. The song wasn't prophesying the crucifixion case at all. Combine the 7 D-swords and drive them into the dark night. There's no doubt in my mind. It was a song meant to overthrow Gladiol. A song to release Ayase from a world corroded by rust and red. Destroy your world, Ayase! Ayase stared at me. Her eyes burned a fiery passion. Ayase looked at her most beautiful when she was singing. Her energy had completely changed. The damsel in distress from before was nowhere to be seen. Ayase understood what I was trying to say, and without saying a word, she nodded. I poured all my strength into our joined hands, and while desperately fighting against the power of the Black Wave, I entrusted my D-sword to Ayase. Combine them. The moment she grabbed it, it was engulfed in red light and swiftly disappeared. But it hadn't been destroyed. As if it had been guided there, the red light was taken in by Ayase's D-sword. Once I knew that for sure, I let go of Ayase's hand. Come on!
Ayase unleashed her power as a Black Knight. An enormous burst of wind came forth, blasting the world with enough force to make everything around her tremble. The black wave was struck by that pressure, turning into a whirlpool. There wasn't a fragment of her usual indifference in her anymore. Ayase took a stance. She spread her legs, lowered her hips, and held her sword high. Her whole body was overflowing with not just strain, but a strong will. The will to look toward the future. She was just barely able to hold back her urge for pure destruction. She had to wait for the perfect opportunity to unleash it all. The red flicker of her sword grew faster. That sword is that which bends fate to its will. That sword is that which converges all sorrows. That sword is that which interferes with the transcendental place. Fueled by wicked hearts designed to rend others, its edge was doubled. It was a manifestation of all the cries for salvation that arose from Ayase's soul, an embodiment of Ayase's chaotic heart. Ayase's gaze was focused on a single point. The black heavens. The ones that shrouded my blue sky. The ones that shrouded Ayase's red sky. A sky born from all the impurity dwelling within it wicked hearts. One that brought nothing but darkness to the world. The only thing I could do was pray. Would the Black Knights triumph? Or would Gladio prevail? Our fate was resting on Ayase's shoulders. And yet for some inexplicable reason I knew. Just as foretold in the legend Ayase had orchestrated, we would never lose to the wicked-hearted king. So Ayase, strike it. Strike it and pierce through the world itself. Open. Oh heavens, hate. Her entire body curved like a bow being drawn. And then, with all the strength vested in her, she cast her shot forth. There it goes. The sword carved a trail of light, blew away the darkness with a loud boom, and pierced through the vermilion heavens. And completely penetrated it. The sky began to crack. The crack spread throughout the entire sky, and before long, accompanied by a flood of sound, the entire world shattered. Well, that was awesome. That was awesome looking. So, that's another ending down. That was really cool. I am still kind of concerned about what probably happened to Nanami and Rimi during that ending. We never actually got a specific... I don't think... At first, I will admit, at first I did fully believe that... Well, actually, no. I don't know if I do believe that... I don't know. Maybe Ayase did kill them. She was still covered in blood when we found her. So, I don't think it's impossible that she killed them. I don't know if it's likely, but it is most definitely possible. Absolutely possible, I think. I just don't know if that actually is the case or not. But, oh well. Anyways, I did like that ending though. That was awesome. Very cool. Now, what ending is next? Our next ending is going to be... Ooh, this one's going to be interesting, I can imagine. Kozue's ending. I'm very worried about Kozue's ending, if I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like that one might just be one of the most disturbing ones, if I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I just get this feeling it's going to be the most disturbing one. But we'll find out eventually. I do wonder, does this mean that, like, Narose just got his plan done with in this ending? I'd be curious if so. We're doing all this, and then Narose is like, well, I got what I wanted. See you later. It'd be kind of funny if that was the case. Oh? When I came to, the brilliant light had returned to the world. The sky was blue. The color that couldn't be put into words. And yet I knew the sky I was looking at right now was most definitely blue. Gladio must have been overthrown.
Or at the very least, the black miasma plaguing the world had disappeared. And now a warm, soft hand tightly clasped my own. Ayase was standing by my side, looking up at the exact same sky I was. Without saying a word, tears poured from her eyes. No.
To think blue is such a beautiful color.
You can see it.
I can. I'm seeing the same color in the sky as you, Takumi.
And what a clear color it was. So clear I could feel it in my chest. So clear it almost hurt to look at. Who knew the sky above us was so clear? Before now, I had never once realized. Shibuya was in shambles, transformed into a city of death. Not even a glimmer of its former glory was left in it. And yet, Ayase, appearing more dazzling than ever, looked fondly over it all.
I could never have imagined the world would be such a beautiful place.
And with those words, Ayase gently clasped my hand. No. A bloody contract for your sins. A contract of blood to seal our sin. Alrighty, that's gonna go ahead and do it for today. So, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoy, and hope to see you all later. Peace.